Charles on the stream says, can the Raiders win the AFC West?
No.
So we've now seen the Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Chiefs. The Chiefs look like they might be the best team in the NFL. The Bills, have that week 1 title, but could be Kansas City. But I do think the Raiders could finish second. I think, to me, they could. I think they could. I mean, they didn't play great and had a chance to beat the Chargers on the road. So,
yeah.
And I think the Broncos, and I'm not alone in this, so I'm not making some big take, but let me put it this way. I don't think it's an overreaction to say that the Broncos could be a disaster this year, because it wasn't just the end of the game for Nathaniel Hackett, UC Davis guy. We're rooting for him. Bald Brotherhood for you.
Haberman lived in his house.
Yep. My parents bought their house from his dad, but the way they mismanaged the play clock, mismanaged the game clock. I thought Russ, I was thinking about it today. Like, what did he look like? He looked to me like Sam Darnold looked when he went to the NFL. He threw all these deep balls yesterday that suddenly they weren't deep balls to DK Metcalf. And they weren't deep balls on like these over routes to Lockett wide open by 30 yards. All of a sudden, they were just one-on-one jump balls to guys who weren't wide open. And it was, I thought, eye-opening how it looks different when the dudes aren't open. It's just the DB's right there.
He did hit Judy for like a walk-in touchdown.
Look, I'm not saying it's never going to work, and I'm not saying Russ sucks. But Russ, who I saw in the offseason, looking a little thicker, I wondered, his lack of ability to get away from anybody on Monday night was a continuation.
He ain't running away from anybody anymore.
It was a continuation of last year. And the other thing is, and you said this earlier, maybe we hadn't started yet.
He's slow. He's a slow runner now. He's still a runner, but he's slow.
Not creating with his legs. And the other thing is, it's one thing to be kind of weird when you have no equity with this team. And if those guys real quickly go, oh, wait, we didn't get championship Russell Wilson, and you're just kind of different, then you lose some of that equity. And then what if you're in that locker room going, does our coach know? Like, I would wake up Tuesday morning if I was on the Broncos going, does my coach know what he's doing? Because he was a big part of the reason we lost on Monday Night Football.
That's right.
So I think Denver is clearly, and again, stock is by far the lowest. If what we just saw Monday night was like a Week 17 game, I don't know how you survive that if you're Nathaniel Hackett.
Okay. I think clearly the best team in the division it's the chart, or it's the Chiefs.
Country mile.
It's the Chiefs. The Chargers have the team to go with the Chiefs. They play this Thursday. They've beat them last year, but as you saw against the Raiders, it feels like they're missing a little. Something's just always off with them. But those two teams are better than the other two teams. The Raiders just got beat. My question would be, if we rank the quarterbacks, it's clear Mahomes 1. Herbert's 2, and you can even put Herbert as not 1B, like 1C. Would you have Derek? Listen, I know you're being critical of Russ, and I am too. He looked a little weird, and maybe he's just so weird now, it's made him a less effective football player as possible. But we can't. I just saw Derek Carr play a shitty game. I didn't watch it live. You're texting me. I go back and watch it Monday. He picks 2 in the second half. That was bad. That was one of the most disappointing efforts of the weekend, I thought, given how much they were right. They could have beat them. Their defense is playing well. Herbert's playing well, but they're right in the game. He throws 3 interceptions and 2 of them crippling. And he said he gave the excuse on one, which wasn't an excuse. It's actually what happened is the corner. He put it toward kind of the pylon, and the corner broke off the receiver. So basically, Devontae ended up being triple teamed. The guy that made the pick was the corner, not the safety that was following him. So it was a guy that he didn't think was going to be there. Okay. But then he comes back and he throws the pick to Renfro, which it just felt like he was pressing. And part of Derek's whole deal the last couple of years is you know what? He's really, controlled the ball, right? He's not throwing 40 touchdowns, but he's not, 3 picks. Obviously, he's not on pace for 3 times 17, but you just have a 3-pick game. You're more likely to have a 12-pick season than you are 5 or 6. So this notion. He said after the game, like, I wanted to be aggressive. We've talked all season about it being aggressive. I still want to be aggressive, but I got to be careful. So now Russell's in this weird spot with Nate Hackett, but are we sure Derek's not in this kind of weird spot? Because now he's got Devontae. One takeaway I had from the Raider game, Devontae looks fucking sweet. Like one of the best players in the league. Should he be above Mahomes in the top 100? No. Do I have any issue with him? You putting him as a fringe top 10 player? Absolutely not. Badass. Waller looked healthy. We know Renfro's good. So now Derek's thinking, like, for the first time, the Chiefs and the Chargers, like, they just got so much. The Chiefs are fine. Chargers just have so much talent. Even if it gets weird, I have a hard time seeing them not get to 10. The Raiders and the Broncos, man, the Russ and Nate Hackett thing is legit pressure. Josh does not have pressure because he
on who?
ain't on just. I'm just saying, like, those two guys just bring the pressure to the organization, right?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Russ is not going to get cut or anything, but
right.
it's just he's just a story. Hackett's a story. The whole thing's a story. I think the story with the Raiders is like Derek, you know?
Well, that's part of it, is that Josh has a lot more belief than Nathaniel Hackett does. So it does put the light on Derek. I thought Derek's pick to his second interception to Devontae was terrible. It reminded me of Stafford's interception last year early against the Niners when they just signed Odell. He tried to force it to Odell. It felt like Derek was like, I'm just giving it to my guy Devontae no matter what.
Weren't they down less than a score and they were on the other side of the 50?
On the 30-yard line or something. It was first down. It was an awful pick. It was really a terrible pick.
He killed him, man. In a game that, like, Herbert, stat line, you watched him, Herbert looks like a stud, but they were not up 20 points. The Raiders were right there within a score. They kept getting the ball back, and Derek kept turning the ball over. And you could tell him, like, I watched some of his post-game press conference. I don't want to say rattled, but I think he knows, like, God, I was fucking, it was me. And it wasn't your classic, like, it's got to be me, it's got to be me. It was, like, legitimately, like, I fucked this thing up. Because I'm watching Waller and Devontae thinking, like, God, these guys are ready. Because they were making plays. Devontae was sweet.
He looks good. I think the Broncos losing Vic Fangio is an underrated part of the division too. Like, now they held Seattle to 17, but
but they're not great on offense. Like, the Raiders could be pretty good on defense. Right?
Denver looked so bad from a tackling standpoint, and their inability to score. They looked like an air raid team when they got down to the 5-yard line in the red zone. They could not run the ball. They couldn't in the red zone. It was crazy. They didn't. To me, some of the shit they ran in the red zone was awful.
You don't like shotgun runs?
To hate shotgun runs. They're throwing these low percentage passes. I just thought they looked bad.
They did have a. I mean, you consider them freak fumbles when you fumble? It's like the baby's own fumble.
Yeah, those are.
If it happens twice, I mean.
So you're right. The counterpoint is, like, they played like shit, and in some ways they should feel like they should have won the game. Now, to me, it felt like Seattle should have been up 10 points on them. But you go, okay. Russ rightfully was probably rattled by the booing, rattled by just going back to Seattle. Like, I thought Russ was rattled, which is a reasonable, like, human thing to have been rattled in that environment. So you could argue he'll be better. And you could argue Nathaniel Hackett, they should be better. Like, there's a reason some people say, you know, coaches, first-time coaches who are coordinators shouldn't be coordinators because the game management's really hard. And they really struggled with the game management. But that's where, and you said this and you're right, like, some of it's on Russ. How are they getting these late play clock situations with a veteran quarterback? Now, maybe the play's not getting in fast enough. I don't know. It could be that. But I hope maybe they'll be better in 5 weeks than they were week 1, because that's about as tough as an environment as you could put Denver in.
If you're doing power rankings, they're clearly 4th. And the Raiders, like, there's a gap even between the Raiders and the Broncos, right? The Chiefs are 1. Chargers would be 2. The Raiders would be, you know, I wouldn't put them right behind the Chargers, but, like, the Chargers have a dramatically better quarterback than the Raiders. And Derek's solid. Like, that's, even if you go, that's one of Derek's worst games of the season when we look back. Herbert is way better than Derek. Because, like you said, if Tom and Giselle head to the Bahamas and Aaron heads to the Chilean forest with ayahuasca, Herbert is right there on the heels of the other two guys. It's 1, 2, 3, and he might be 3, but he's closer to 1 than he is 7. So that's a problem for the Raiders. That the 1 and 3 are in your fucking division, and they are just way better than your guy. And that's where I say with Russ, like, I'm with you, Russ look rattled, but let's just say one of the 2 games, like, Derek just ain't consistent. If they play each other for the next 3 years, like, Derek ain't consistently outplaying him every game. unless he's just a shot fighter, which it's not out of the realm of possibility that he just keeps trending down. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Because the one thing you would say about Russ, like he cares about football. He wants to be good. It's not like for all his weirdness, and it is dramatically getting weirder. Like that's the thing. Like it's getting weirder. Like to me, Tom getting weird, Tom's football weirdness is not, Tom's into some things that like avocado ice cream. But ultimately, when you take a step back, you're like, well, for him to get good at football, but whenever you watch clips of like practice, it's like him dumping water on Mike Evans and Julio. It's like, God, this guy, how much fun it would be to kick it with Brady. You know, with Russ, obviously, I'm sure you saw the clip of him running out to practice, right? Tapping nobody, high-fiving people. Do you see that?
Yeah, I saw him at midfield with like his arms out and his eyes closed.
But have you seen the Denver clip like a week or 2 weeks ago?
Oh, no.
Coming out from like the facility
like
out to the
pretending to do starting lineups, kind of?
Yeah, high five. No one's there. What was he doing at midfield? I
don't know.
Did you understand?
I think just receiving the energy from the sky.
Yeah, we all got to do weird stuff to get ourselves ready for whatever we do. Feels like he's jumped the shark. Like to me, even Brady's got weird, but he hasn't jumped the shark. Like, yeah, 45-year-olds get plastic surgery. He did weird stuff to keep his body right. One thing you'd say, it worked, right? I'm watching Tom Sunday night. Didn't you think is just throwing BBs?
Yeah.
Russ does he keeps saying, let's ride. Like who fucking, we have been watching football, you and me, like that we can remember for almost 30 years. It's unprecedented what he's doing.
Especially because Let's Ride does not feel like Go Broncos would feel. It feels more of a me thing. Like he's going to be printing T-shirts for Let's Ride soon, right? Like Go Hawks, not as weird. Do you agree with that?
I don't think Go Hawks really that weird at all. You know, it was kind of his thing, and he did it on Wisconsin. But
it was kind of a Pete, because Pete was kind of a collegiate, energetic guy. It kind of fit.
It worked. I never judged him for that. The Go Broncos, Let's Ride. He's added words. You know, I'm with you. Go Broncos. A lot of like Niners, like Niner Nation, like players. You're just kind of in the world. I get it. He just made something up.
Yeah, and for what reason? Because he's a team guy, or because he's trying to stamp his brand? Like because that's what it feels like. But I think there's an episode of Seinfeld where Jerry is dating a girl, and he gets a knock on the door, and it's Newman, and Newman opens the door, and he and the girl know each other, and it turns out the girl used to date Newman, and Jerry looks at her completely differently, right? He can't even kiss her after that. And I do wonder if you were a Broncos fan, or if you were the new owners of the Broncos, you'd go, so this guy went to the Seahawks, who were terrible. They went to the playoffs. They won 10 games 5 times from 1976 to 2011. He won a championship there. He had 8 10-win seasons in 10 years there. So more 10-win seasons in his time there than they had his entire franchise's history before he showed up. Won a championship, left, shows back up. Every guy that played with him publicly, all these guys hate him. The coach and the organization rip him. The fans all boo him. Should we be a little concerned about the guy we just got? And I think the answer to that question is yes. Yes, you should. And I would be, like, it's not even about should or would. If I were them, I would be concerned. And it's not like to this point it's been all normal, nothing to see. I mean, it's been a little weird since he got there. So,
here's the thing.
I'd have concerns.
Coward loves Russ, hates Rodgers. Rodgers has dramatically more people that have consistently considered, and he considers, and they hang out together, right? Of guys that he played with.
Well, for as crazy as Aaron sounds like he talks sometimes, you could have a conversation with Aaron Rodgers that doesn't feel like, you know, it's a promotional shoot. Is what it, again, I haven't had a conversation with either, but just when I watch them talk.
Yeah, it is. It feels bizarre. I think that's pretty telling. That feels like every guy. Do you think this is weird? I saw him say this last night. I'm sorry I red flagged it. I guess he played with him for 3 years. He called DK one of his best friends in the world.
Okay.
Like that he's just best friends with DK Metcalf? Like DK
You're
Metcalf.
It's weird because you don't think it's true, or because DK would be a weird guy to have as your best friend?
Well, I think it's kind of reflective that he doesn't have that many friends. Like he's had the opportunity, like unlike most human beings, right? If you just do a normal job, if I just put you in an office, I understand the majority of people you're going to meet, you aren't going to like. I'm not expecting. In football, like kind of a tried and true formula, they're going to be, if you're a semi-normal guy, minimum every single team 5-6 guys that you're just going to gravitate to, and you're just going to call friends. And depending on how many teams you play for, you're just going to have a ton of friends. It's a conducive environment. It's like the closest thing to like junior high or high school. You're just going to end up with other people your age. You're going to run into some people that you're just going to college consider friends. And it feels like he has no friends. Like Richard Sherman, you go, who is his friends? It's like 7 of the guys from those teams. Like they were really good teams.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of it. Like when Frank Gore retired, every single guy to a man was like, fucking love Frank. God damn it, I love Frank. You know, it's like, are they like best friends? I don't know, but they sure feel there's a kinship. It feels like there is no kinship between these guys that, like you said, the highest of highs. They won a Super Bowl. Hell, we've seen Niner teams.
Which ties people together who really wouldn't get along otherwise.
We've seen the Niner teams that have lost in the Super Bowl that feel pretty tied together. It feels like Richard Sherman, and maybe it's just because it's recency bias, doesn't it feel like he's closer to the Niners than he is with Seattle?
Well, he talks. Yeah, I mean, yes.
I just think I got a walking, talking red flag on this guy as just become a caricature. And it's one thing if you just know, like when you're in a dorms with somebody and he's a weird guy. Well, if you still know him 15, 20 years later, be like, yeah, he's always a little weird, but me and him just got along, whatever.
Right.
When you meet that guy at our age, you're 37, 35, 36, and you meet another weird guy, you go, that's kind of weird, right? But if you knew someone that known him for 20 years, you'd be like, trust me, get to know him. Go play. We're going to play golf. Come along. We'll have a couple beers. He's cool. You'll end up liking him, right? But you sometimes need a bridge. Who's the bridge, right? Like Jerry Judy's like, what the fuck is this, bro? And then like Javonte Williams, like this guy's kind of weird, man. And then all of a sudden, like Simmons on defense and Bradley Chubb is like, yeah, Vaughn told me something about this, but I was like, I try not to listen too much. Now it's like, what's going on here?
I know a guy that played with both of them, and I've obviously asked him about both of them. His thing was like, you know, I was there when Russ was younger. He just doesn't really he has a hard time connecting to people. He's like, Aaron is different, but like Aaron's like, he likes Aaron. And I talked to another guy last year who used to play with Aaron, and I remember Aaron said something that was getting crushed for, and the guy was like, I will defend Aaron no matter what. Like Aaron's a.
You told the story about Russ bringing security to the party that he picked everyone at the party.
Well, you know, he has a golf tournament where it's invite only, but Russ hung out on the golf cart with his security, like away from everybody. And the guy that told me the story, like works for the Seahawks, is like, what, Russ, what do you do? Where are the people you invited? Like, we're not going to come up to you for autographs. Like, you invited us. You already approved the guest list. Why are you being weird?